what would you say is, I mean, just loosely, I'm sure you don't have the numbers, but like what personality types have a tendency to be attracted to entrepreneurship? Is it the ones that you would predict?
This is a good question
Oh,
because
yeah.
uh, my answer is going to be disappointing.
Mm.
It's not about type.
Hmm.
Okay.
Type comes afterwards. So those who can make it past the initial gates of entrepreneurship, it's more correlated to things like privilege, things like, can I get out of school with no debt because my parents provided a lot for me, so I'm not saddled with debt, so I can risk more in my entrepreneur life?
Hmm.
Or is my network, that I grew up in and that my parents have, does that set me up for better success? Have I been trained in the business mind since I was a kid? These are all things that come from privilege, and it's regardless of type.
Yeah.
Um, After that, though, there are very clear distinctions between how different types react to the foundership experience, the first time foundership experience. And I only have a year's worth of data, but I've seen some patterns already. Um, so yeah, I don't want to. Was that answering your
No,
question?
I have like a train I'm going on,
Okay, go.
but I love
Yes.
so that's people who end up. That's are those or is that demographic breakdown that you're talking about being correlated more to privilege than to type of people who succeed or continue to go the next level, or are we talking about people who are merely attracted to it and seek it?
Mm. It's a good question because I'm at the very earliest stages of venture capital. So I invest in mainly just beyond idea, prototype, first few customers, and then what I've seen is those who make it. It's not really. It doesn't skew toward a specific personality type. It's more about one. Do you have founder market fit? Is you as a person? Do you understand this market and do you have enough um, zeal and enthusiasm about solving this problem to make it through the tough things of scaling?
Yeah.
Um, and then two, it's how well can you create your circumstance and you create your organization to play to your strengths and then to cover your blind spots. That's where I think personality type is a leverage point. It's understanding the self and unlocking all of that potential to get to each next step.
Okay. And so I had a different question, but I want to snatch the thing you dangled, which is you've already seen some patterns in how types respond to that. So do you mind sharing some of your patterns?
Sure. And
Why are you hesitant? This is weird. You're like, well, okay.
I
You're
don't
like super like
Early.
pulling back.
I don't think I have enough data, so
Oh,
I'll
so it's
come
an
back.
ITP thing.
Yeah, I'll come back in a few years and be like, I was wrong about this. I was wrong, but I have more data now.
You're welcome to do that.
Okay.
You're allowed to update your data.
Sure. So what I've seen, so I'll give you some examples. FE users, and this is
So
going to
Harmony
echo
users.
Harmony users,
Yeah.
Harmony front seat. This is going to echo a lot of common type advice, but I see it play out. One big blind spot for them is I think it comes from a self-worth place, but they are reluctant to price their product or service appropriately,
Hmm.
and they want to give, and the customers are coming to them because they're getting all this free service, this free product, but it's hindering them. It's hindering their team. They can't pay their team enough, and it's a self-worth thing where they have to say, I am worth more than I'm charging, and I'm gonna put my name on this higher price point and then trust that then that added resource will then make the lives better of everyone on the team, but also themselves.
Yeah.
They very often will try to do everything themselves. And even when they make hires, they tend to either micromanage or will kind of coddle them and not give them enough freedom to really shine. Because it's that affiliative, this is all me. They're more often to be solo founders than others who are willing to kind of be co-founders.
Interesting. Yeah, you
Okay.
wouldn't think that.
Yeah.
Any other patterns?
So that's extroverted feeling
Mhm.
harmony users,
Yes.
FJs, Myers-Briggs FJs. What about the FPs of the world, the authenticity, introverted feeling people? How do they typically
Yeah.
show up in this environment?
So the ones, I think they self-filter a lot, which I appreciate about FPs.
Okay.
The ones that I've seen who decide to go into entrepreneurship, they've gone out into an industry following their passions. I'm thinking of one in particular who we invested in recently, who's in the music industry. I think is an INFP. went in following his, he loves music, and he saw that the system is broken, and he came back and said, I want to change it. And what I found working with him is most traditional startup advice doesn't apply to FI users, because they already kind of know what they want.
Amen.
And
It's hijacked me so much trying to follow traditional advice, and I keep doing it. It's not working. I'm like, I think I must have to do this a different way. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Just it resonated so clearly.
Well, so that's validation.
Yeah,
Is that it's they should just trust themselves if they think they figured it out. They're also very good at surrounding themselves with smart people and getting people on board with their vision, and kind of through that, bringing these skills together, mindset, creating really effective teams.
What's the challenge though?
Yeah, what's their blind spot?
What do they struggle with? Their blind spots. I need to know, Darren. What's my blind spot?
I mean, I've got some guesses.
It's really why I'm asking. Oh, I bet you do, Antonia.
It might have to do more with the perceiving functions.
Okay.
But it could be something around expertise and systems. It's integrating this, the backseat function, the TE of it.
Yeah.
There are points at which there are points that you don't need to reinvent the wheel every time, and you should just trust an expert or trust the best practices of the industry. And that could be a blind spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would guess that people like myself with authenticity, introverted feeling, have a tendency to overcomplicate and overproduce something that could be more simple. Like we want to like look, if it's super interesting and complexity, it like makes it more quality or better, and my ego gets boosted around it. Like the real smart, look how smart I was. I have like meta levels of like complexity here, so it's not just something basic; it's like extra. And I think that's probably the proclivity that I would personally go down, and I would assume a lot of other authenticity users I know would probably have a similar drive or pull.
Yeah, I've worked with an FI user who worked in customer service, and she was incredible at it, but she killed herself calling every single client, making sure every single problem for them was solved.
Yes.
Getting on the phone with them in some third-party software. And it's like, that's useful to a degree, but we also have hundreds of clients.
Yeah.
And sometimes a canned email will do.
Yeah. That over personalization, over specialization of everything in that way. Okay. And then extroverted thinking effectiveness users, I'm guessing, I mean, the assumption is that a TJ comes into the world, the business world, and it's like dropping a fish into a lake.
They're like Boss Baby. They were born in a suit.
Cookies are for closers. Like they know how it all works. They're elegant. There's no challenges, maybe some emotional stuff here and there, some backseat introverted feeling. But like, I think the assumption for people that aren't TJs, extroverted thinking, is they have the easiest time in business in the world, and they just effortlessly do everything, and the world just is their oyster.
The cartoon understanding of type.
Business just comes to them. They don't have to go to it.
Yeah. So my answer is, I think, counterintuitive, but also, again, I'm going to qualify. Small sample size, and I work with specifically students. So either undergrad or graduates who are early career, let's say. Most TE users at that juncture in life will not take the risk. It makes no sense to take that much risk. I was saying before, business school kids are getting multiple six-figure offers out of undergrad.
Yeah.
If you're a TE user, you understand resource, you have all this debt, why would I risk this sure thing and go start a company that has tons of risk for some future thing? More often than not, they take the money because they're good at it. And that kind of puts them on this train directly into that path.
So you're going to find more extroverted thinking TJs in the executive suite as the CFO, the COO, the employee in the second tier in the executive ranks, more than the founder themselves.
The system is built for them. The larger business system is built for them. What I will say is those who I have worked with that are TE users, again, it's about integrating that backseat, that inferior. The phrase that comes to mind is, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. And I think TE has a propensity to look at people as resource. But if you're building a team and you're asking a lot of your team, they have personal needs, right? They have egos, they have career ambitions, and you have to be in touch with that and kind of do things that are unproductive, like recognize your employees once in a while, buy them lunch, or just these personal things that a lot of TE users very easily shove off.
Yeah. Not
Yeah.
because they don't care. They're just focused on resource and
Yes.
the task at hand. And sometimes when I'm in that mode, I have a part of me that's effectiveness, right? My 10-year-old, I can forget people, weirdly enough, as much as I'm a feeler and care about the individual. In that mode, man, we're doing something. Sorry. Eat later, Darren. Eat later. We're in the middle of recording a podcast or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we didn't talk about introverted thinking, TPs.
Well, we kind of talked a little bit about it at the
Authenticity.
beginning, but
Yeah. Well, just to summarize what we've covered already, if I build it, they will come mentality is
Yeah.
a big one. That's the big blind spot. It's just not integrating the FE of what do other people want and how can I be helpful, rather than what do I think and how can I force that on the world.
yeah.
I will say that I think and I don't profile any of these people to know for sure, but it feels like in the business world, there's a lot more introverted thinking accuracy than ever before. Like I would argue, like with crypto, a lot of the leadership is accuracy users. I think with any tech startups, there's a lot of this, there's just so much. It feels like the internet is built finally. And like technology companies and the way that like tech works, that business world is built for TI, for accuracy. Like it feels that way to me. The physical world's for extroverted thinking, but the internet space, I mean, the blockchain governance system seems very much like a TE system. It doesn't seem TE to me. It does not seem
TI system.
TI system. It feels accuracy to me. TI, introverted thinking system.
Mm.
It's like federated. Everybody's got kind of their own sovereignty. It's all
transparency.
It's public and trackable and transparent, but it also can't be messed with. And like the thing is what it is. The logic sound, like that kind of idea.
Yeah.
It can't be manipulated in the way maybe effectiveness would want to.
Built on complicated algorithms.
Yeah, and math and like all these computations and things. It just, I feel like introverted thinking is going to be more of a player in like the next 100 years than it's ever been before in our world.
There are aspects of that which I agree with. I will say a lot of the narrative around, say, cryptocurrency or more recently AI comes from a TI idealistic place.
Okay.
And I'll give you an example. When cryptocurrency was huge, the promise was this is going to revolutionize every industry. This is going to, become the new standard for every financial tech startup. And here we are a few years later, and the reality is it really hasn't changed a whole lot.
Yeah.
Same with AI. I'll tell you from an investing standpoint, AI is the fad. But actual money going into companies using AI it's not commensurate to the fad. Because the venture capital dollars are not asking how cool is the technology. They're asking, have you found a helpful application in the real world?
Yeah.
And those that are raising money have used AI or cryptocurrency to solve an already existing problem just better.
Yeah.
So it's not the technology itself. It's you still need to go through that trial by fire of how does this fit into the greater picture? How can I help people with it?
Well, that in the late 1990s, I remember the conversation around the internet was the internet's really cool, but there's no commercial application. It connects people, but what are we building? There's no way to derive value at a fundamental way.
Mm-hmm.
And the question at that point, right before like the bubble crash of 2000, 2001 or whatever, was like, and there were these companies, just pets.com and like all these like .com companies that were raising tons of money and sort of had a kind of a loose business model, but it wasn't actually sustainable. It's kind of like the streaming networks now try to like they're hoping they're going to eventually break even and make money, which they're not as much, right now. They're having a hard, well, I think Netflix is doing well, but like Disney Plus is just bleeding money like crazy for the entire organization. And so there was this idealism and hope it was going to solve a lot of challenge. So maybe AI is at the place where the internet was in the 90s. It's like, we just don't know how to commercialize it yet, but we know the potentiality is going to be there.
Yeah.
So it's gonna have to go through its like boom and bust cycle, and then the second, it's always the second wave that really builds the applications and the value is derived.
I think that's it. So in the early days of the internet, people were investing in websites because they thought that was going to be the real estate of the future, right?
Yes.
I'm going to buy whatever.com in spades because that's what's going to make me rich. What we learned after all of that is you have to get to the application level. It's not until something like a Facebook, something like a Netflix that, provides a real service, just using the internet as a tool to do it better. That's how you get widespread impact, and that's how you create business.
Yeah.